Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
Welcome to Caribbean Perspective. So glad you can join us. The story that dominates in today's edition for Tuesday, 7th October 2025, and brought to you in association with our friends at Antillean Group. Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister realigns her cabinet with some key adjustments. Details after this important message.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all, perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar has made changes to ministerial responsibilities for several members of her cabinet. The President, acting on the advice of the Prime Minister and in accordance with Section 79(1) of the Constitution, approved the reassignments which took effect on October 3rd. Details in this TTT News item.
Some of the key changes will see Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar now additionally overseeing heritage buildings, constitutional reform, national trust, National Commission for Self-Help, NALIS, and several housing and improvement programs. Attorney General John Jeremy gains additional responsibility, now overseeing the criminal justice system. Finance Minister Devendranath Tanku is now responsible for National Health Insurance System and Exim Bank, but will no longer manage valuation. Minister of Homeland Security Roger Alexander gains oversight of the prison system. Meanwhile, Minister of Justice Devesh Maharaj is responsible for electronic monitoring, equal opportunity and tax appeal boards and legal education institutions. Minister Saddam Hussein's portfolio has been reclassified as Ministry of Land and Legal Affairs, gaining all land-related responsibilities, while Minister Ravi Ratiram is now the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries. Labour Minister Leroy Batiste gains NEDCO, while Minister of the People and Social Development Vandana Mohit now has responsibility for the Geriatric Adolescent Partnership Program but loses social planning and monitoring. Minister of Public Utilities and Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister Barry Padarath has oversight of power generation, Trinidad Generation Unit and PowerGen. Several other ministers had components of their portfolios realigned and received no new responsibilities.
Over now to Guyana, where the General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party Civic PPPC and Vice President Bharat Jagdeo has flatly denied claims that his party spent $5 billion during the September 1st, 2025 general and regional elections campaign. Travis Chase of HGP Nightly News reports.
There is denial by the People's Progressive Party Civic's General Secretary Bharat Jagdeo that his party spent at least $5 billion on campaigning for the September 1 general and regional elections.
Will you disclose my sources? Yes, you wouldn't disclose. So that's what people do. You hide behind sources. If I were to come here every time and hide behind a source, then we'll never find the truth. You could publish a blatant lie like that and say you can't disclose your source.
Mr. Jagdeo, who is also the country's sitting vice president, was at the time hosting his usual Thursday afternoon press conference. Jagdeo's feathers seemed ruffled by the revealing figures, which was first published by a credible online news agency.
I don't know where he pulled that out. From some dark part of his body or somewhere else.
It was representatives from the US-based Carter Center, while observing the September 1 general elections, who said they had seen signs of the misuse of state resources and the state media. In a pre-election statement, the center said it had received multiple allegations from political parties and civil society that the ruling party has misused state resources. It said social media and news reports are also rife with photographs suggestive of this problem.
My poll said they spent $300 million in the last elections, which is a lot of money, by the way. I thought APNU spent far less. We're given the mediocre performance and the campaign they had. And the PPP didn't spend very much more than that.
Pressed on his party's elections campaign financing strategy, especially at the last elections, Mr. Jack Dew responded.
I will make known the figure later, but I would love if you tell the country how you came up with $5 billion. $5 billion is probably, we didn't spend much more than APNU.
Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick in association with our friends at
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Venezuela has accused the United States of military harassment after 5 U.S. fighter jets reportedly flew close to its shores. Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino said the incident was part of threatening maneuvers against Caracas, while President Nicolas Maduro has instructed the armed forces to respond. The claim comes as Venezuela intensifies operations against Colombian rebel groups inside its territory. WION News has more.
And shifting focus to tensions that have flared between US and Venezuela again, President Donald Trump has claimed that US forces struck another vessel allegedly carrying illegal drugs off the coast of Venezuela on Saturday. The president made the claims during a speech at Navy Station in Norfolk next to Harry Truman aircraft carrier. In fact, for now, it's not immediately clear if he was referring to a strike announced by US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on Friday, in which 4 unidentified people accused of being narco-terrorists were killed. In total, at least 21 people have been killed in the strike so far, as per the statement by the US officials. Also, the White House says that the strikes, which have blown up at least 4 boats, are stopping drugs from reaching the US. President Trump boasted that his policy was working and that military action could be expanded to land routes as well. Listen in to what he had to say.
Every one of us knows families that have been destroyed because the son, daughter, even mothers and fathers are destroyed by the fentanyl pouring in and drugs pouring in. Well, they're not coming in by sea anymore, so now we'll have to start looking about the land because they'll be forced to go by land. And let me tell you right now, that's not going to work out well for them either.
Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro criticized Trump over US aggression against his country. And without giving any reference to Trump's latest announcement, Maduro in a video message said that Venezuelans will never be afraid to defend their right to live and be free and will be ready to face any scenario. Venezuelan foreign minister said that his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov gave a full expression of support as well as solidarity to Caracas in a phone call between the two. In a post on social media, Yavan Gil said that Russia has also committed to preserving Latin America and the Caribbean as a zone of peace.
The United States President Donald Trump, meantime, refers to ongoing strikes in the Caribbean as an act of kindness. CBS Miami reports.
President Trump had this to say during these ongoing missions in the Caribbean.
It's a pretty tough thing we've been doing, but you have to think of it this way. Every one of those boats is responsible for the death of 25,000 American people and the destruction of families. So when you think of it that way, what we're doing is actually an act of kindness.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro says he is preparing to declare a state of emergency to protect his country in the event of an attack by the U.S. military. Jamaica's
legal fraternity outraged over data breach following judge's death. Amoy Harriet reports for CVM News.
Every intimate detail of Judge Ruth Lawrence's final hours was laid bare, including an hour-by-hour account of the events leading to her death. The release of such sensitive information has sparked outrage within the legal fraternity, with many calling it a serious breach of privacy under the Data Protection Act. Notably, under the Jamaica Data Protection Act 2020, personal data of deceased individuals is protected for up to 30 years after their death. In a press release on Thursday, the Jamaica Bar Association said they're deeply troubled by the apparent non-observance of the Data Protection Act, which enshrines the right to privacy and the dignity of the individual, even in death. The association went further to say the act affirms that personal data must be handled with care, respect, and lawful purpose. It said the dissemination of intimate and distressing information without appropriate safeguards or justification undermines the solemnity of death, the humanity of the deceased, and those who are left to mourn her passing. The Bar Association says it condemns this breach in the strongest terms.
The indignity hits harder because here it is that she is someone who, everything that you read about her, she has given dedicated service to the public and to her community, and there is no basis on which she should have been treated in that manner.
Georgia Gibson Henlin is a fellow of Information Privacy and managing director of Privacy and Legal Management Consultants Limited.
And from a legal perspective, I am not sure of the source of the information, but it does appear, in terms of what I saw, it appears to be well ordered, well written, and it included information that is protected from disclosure under the Data Protection Act, because her name was there, that of her husband was there, her address was there, the whole health situation, which is very sensitive personal information under the Act.
Mrs. Henlin contends that the public, in particular media entities, must do better to balance citizens' rights to know and upholding the law.
Well, the duty to protect privacy is first. And so in terms of putting the information out there or communicating the information to the public, one has to first have regard to the fact of the law, and is it necessary to disclose that level of detail in order to communicate the story? It seems to me that we revel in the excitement of gore these days.
She argues the Data Protection Act needs strengthening.
Here it is that something has happened, and we'll have to basically search for ordinary remedies in order to deal with something as egregious as this. So the law needs to be fully brought into effect so that when there's a breach, the full consequences can be brought to bear. Because if ever there was a case that cries out for an act of deterrence, it is this one.
Amoy Howard reporting for CVN News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean.
In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.